Welcome along to another video about distilling. In this video we're going to explore how to modify your standard T500 still or any still that you've bought just to get into the hobby to customize it more to your liking. Now, originally this was going to be two videos. It started off as me buying this sight glass because I wanted an additional gin basket. I wanted something that I could see, if certain washers were going to be puking. And I got these little additions for my condenser arm and for the top of the Liebig dome so that I could attach them together, and from there I got pretty excited about modulating my still. And then I filmed a whole secondary video about making this condenser, which you can see is about twice as long as the standard condenser arm. And I got really into about doing a how-to video where I showed you how I soldered it. Probably not as good as Bearded and Board can with his condenser arm. So I'll post that video here. I'd recommend watching that one. I just took a slightly different approach with my fittings, but for the most part it's the same. It's a very good introductory piece to make if you're new to soldering, because I've never done it before. It only really has one solder point that touches your vapor stream, and the rest are all to do with the water jacket. Unfortunately, all of that footage got lost when my phone had a little bar. So here we go. We're making this video. This will be phase one. So I'm making just a pot still mode condenser, and then from there we're going to expand and have a look at phase two. We'll be going reflux, and phase three we'll be looking at that, adding a proper gin basket and that sort of thing. So I've got the last few components that I need. And in here we have a Birdwatcher's sugar wash, just 15 litres, just to do our first cleaning. I'm a little bit sort of like, maybe this is overkill, right? Because I made this, I know for sure that there's one soldering point that I've got access to and I've thoroughly cleaned. But everywhere, all the literature, all the advice is do a sacrificial run just to clean up the flux, any compounds that were left over from when you made it. And adding to that, this 45-degree elbow I got here, this is from AliExpress, so I don't know how it was made. That's not ideal, right? You want it to be kind of on an angle, so I do have another one, so I hope that looks alright. Don't lose that piece. Interesting. So I got the one with the thermo well, and it turns out it's just a hole with a special bolt piece, which I probably could have. I spent twice as much on this because it had the thermo well. I didn't realize it wasn't a soldered in piece. It's just a little silicone screw cap piece, but that's fine. I don't mind that. This all feels really janky. I mean, it's all a step up from the T500 thermo well, right? That thing was weird. Okay, so you can kind of close the aperture on this little silicone gasket, and then that's removable, which is awesome. It's kind of shaky. What I want to do is have this at the apex of the head, which you can hear is actually already going. I'll just, everything is now modulated, which means I have a clamp for everything. And I can swap out pieces and put them back in as I see fit. So I've decided to go with some PTFE gaskets. They're a little bit harder. I'm not used to dealing with this length, by the way, so I'm just going to remove my blowtorch. The idea here is now that I can control whatever angle I want this to be on. So if I want it on a 45-degree angle or lower, at the moment I can't because it's touching the table. But you get the idea. If I had the setup coordinated for what I'm making, then I can control what kind of incline or decline my condenser arm is on. And so that's the basic setup for a pot still distillation. I might have to just move things around a little bit, but let's just test out the thermometer. Seems to be working. So let's talk about water cooling, shall we? This is a 22mm thick copper pipe, which is about 750mm long, so almost a whole meter of cooling. Inside there's a spiral piece of copper wire wrapped all the way around the inner 15mm thick copper pipe. And so what will happen is cold water will enter at the bottom, it'll swirl around this as a vortex to help cool all around the copper pipe, and it'll exit out here. I've opted for, again, tri-clamp connectors on both parts so that I can be a little bit more free to change out what hoses are attached. What I didn't like about this is that once I attached hoses, I didn't like to take them off, which meant putting it away for storage was a bit of a bitch. It was very annoying, because you didn't, especially with this barbed on at the bottom, taking it off and on was just really frustrating. So I always just left it out with all of the wires, all of the hoses just everywhere. For the intake valve, I've made this this piece here, so you've got your little ferrule there that will connect, and then we've got this on-off switch, which I never had before. If I wanted to turn water on or turn it off, I'd have to go out to the tap outside and turn it on or off. So now I've got a valve, and then there's just a hose connector on the other side to connect it to the groundwater. In future videos, once we've done the column, we will look at a recycled water system. I'm still working out how that's going to work physically. For the warm water out option, I've opted to go for this little elbow, because one thing I noticed a lot with this one coming out on an angle is that because this is a silicone or a vinyl based hose and you had warm water coming out constantly, the hose, first of all, it would bend and come off, so I've got a little clamp there, but it would also bend this way and it would restrict the water flow coming out. And so with this, it means there's no restrictions, it's coming out in the direction of downwards, which is where I want the water to go, and then it can just run away without bending or kinking the hose and then restricting the flow of liquid coming out. This is also the first time, I don't think you may have already noticed, but this is the first time I've actually had everything set up. I've done a water test with this, but I haven't been able, until this piece arrived, I wasn't able to direct it down like this, so this is exciting. I'm going to go hook up the water and turn the water on, and I'm not going to be here for this, so if there's any water pissing out anywhere, you will be the first to see it. Success. For the most part, we do have a drip coming out here at the bottom, and that is not product, that's coming from our hose connection, so maybe we just tighten that up. So we have discovered we do have a drip coming out of the front of the intake, and it could be actually related to the connections, because I did quite a bit of cleaning up recently. I haven't finished buffing the whole piece, but I filed away a lot of the solder from the outside, so I may have to go back and do some touching up with solder, because there's probably a pinhole leak there somewhere, and no amount of tightening that ferrule is going to stop it from coming out. So I imagine it's coming out from somewhere around there. So the leak is a little bit of a problem. Some of you may be asking, why am I doing a sacrificial run if I'm going to have to come back and re-solder that joint? And the reason why I'm not too concerned is because that joint, it's an exterior fix on the water jacket. Nothing in that piece is going to touch the product, so I can come back and touch it up a little bit here and there and clean it and not be worried about contamination with the product. Everything else, the joint at the top there where the thread connects to the ferrule, and then all the joints inside those two 45-degree angle pipes, I'm concerned about those having contaminations, having compounds in them that you don't want in your final product, so I'm going to let it run. Now the other thing I had a concern about is that the thermometer, while it's heating up, turned off. So it might be just a cheapo thermometer, but then again, so was this thing as well. So we'll see how it goes, if it suits the purpose going forward, or if I need to swap it out for something else. I'll make that call as we get down to it. But for now, aside from the slight leak, this is a win at the moment. So I went away to make a cup of tea, and somewhere in that time we reached our peak temperature. I don't know exactly what the temperature was because the thermometer turned off again. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to turn off the water and allow this to come through as a steam. And I've got a slight leak on my tap as well, but that's fine. It's taking a second to bring that temperature through. It's still cooling down. It's such a length that it's taking some time for it to heat up everything inside. Now the reason we do this, the reason we do a sacrificial run, and you can see it coming out now, is because alcohol is one of the best cleaners. Vinegar is great, doing just a water run is okay, but alcohol is going to clean out whatever compounds are in there, so when you use this to make alcohol, it's going to clean out the stuff that is in there and put it into your product. So you do this sacrificial run, you sacrifice one run, it might cost you $12 worth of sugar and some yeast to do. Oh, the water's coming out of the hose. So we'll just keep that going. It's the ultimate way to clean it. I will do a vinegar run on this as well before I use it. I will do just a water run just to clean it out. But we'll just run this through, and then over the time that it takes to transform all of this into a vapor and push it all through, any gunk, any bad stuff will come out. Cool. That's it. So what was the point of this video if I couldn't show you a lot of detail around how I made this? Because all I had was one camera angle from my other camera. It's not an instructional video, it's more of a methodology or an ideological video, right? Because it's around how far can you push what you buy from the store towards what you need for what you want to make. At the moment I'm making a lot of rum. I'm trying my hand at making some whiskies and doing some mash tuns and that sort of thing. And so I'm learning a lot from that, but I need this style of still to distill it in the way that I want to get all those flavors. I've also been getting into making gin a lot, and I don't make videos about that because really it's about the recipe, and it's a recipe, so I'm keeping it to myself. But in doing that I need to make a high proof alcohol, and I can't do that with this setup. So the next phase is going to be a reflux column, and I've been looking at a couple of different designs which I want to share with you. And again, I want it to be optional. I want to be able to go with a reflux with a packed column or a bubble plate or something in between if I need to. So I'm going to be playing around with a few ideas and designs now that I've got a modulated setup. So we'll talk about that, I guess, in the next video of this series, reflux columns. And yes, my ginger nut was sitting on a box that came here from China, and people are probably going, ooh, don't eat that. It's okay, look, I'm sanitizing it, clean. This is what this whole video has been about, it's cleaning. So it's fine. Anyway, excited to see you guys next time. There will be a bit of a gap because I need to source these products, they're not cheap. I need to make a few things. So tune in next time for the next episode. In the meantime, I'm a complete novice with all this, right? I'm doing this based on what I've seen and heard from you guys online and my own intuition. So if you have any advice, if you want to steer me in the right direction, if you have any resources you think I should read or check out, please have at it. I'd love to see it. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, until next time. So just a last update on this, because I've now done the this sacrificial run, I've done a vinegar run, and I've done a regular water run, and then last night I ran through some rum that I was making. I did an initial low wines run, and I'm currently doing the second low wines run, and then I've got one more full kettle's worth of liquid in that fermenter to put in there tonight to do as well. But everything's working fine. So I did quite a few patch up jobs on this connection here. As you can see, I haven't really cleaned it up well yet because I was just testing it out. But I think the water drippage was actually coming from the pressure of the water coming through and dripping through the seal, rather than actually dripping through my craftsmanship there. Because right now there's zero drips. But if I turn the tap up to full bore, because you're getting the liquid coming through what is essentially a sort of 6mm hole there, and then it suddenly expands right where the seal is, it's going out in all directions and it's dripping through that seal, no matter how tight I tighten it. So if I was to crank this tap up to full bore, then it would be dripping, but it's not. So yay, we've got some jaggery sugar rum. Here's an interesting thing as well. So last night I collected, well, first of all, I collected in this jar for several hours till about here,
And then because I was distracted, I switched over to this jar and I collected to about here. So this was when it was getting down to sort of like 90 or up to 97 degrees Celsius, down to 10%. So all of this was from before there. Here you can see where it was getting to those really tails ends of the low wines run. And then I started on this jar with today's run and filled it up here. You can actually see that it's isolated this layer of murk here, which is the really low wines, the real tails run. And if you think that it's just a trick of the light, if I shake this, you'll see that is moving around. So yeah, the alcohol has really, the density of the high ABV alcohol and the density of the low ABV alcohol, they don't want to mingle together. They are segregated as 1960s America right now. I think. I don't know my history very well. I think that's a thing. I think that's a reference. So, yeah, little update. End of the video. Everything's running smooth. I've got the still a little bit higher since it's low wines, and I've got the angle of the arm straight down. Looking really nice. And everything's groovy.